out the motherfucking pack.
Right out
But
the
niggas don't know
bag.
how to act.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another NFL mock draft. You know, I'm getting excited. Why are you getting excited, Rod? Well, I'm getting really excited because the draft is getting closer and closer. And, these mock drafts, it almost feels like putting together a puzzle. I feel like I'm starting to get the borders really, really down, and I'm really starting to put it together and not just, I got a few pieces missing, but I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying. I kind of fucked up the end of that analogy. But let's get right into it. 2 rounds today with trades, and let me tell you, people, I have some good trades for you. So let's get right into it. And I think with about 5 weeks till the season comes around, I'm thinking I'm gonna start doing about a mock draft a week. And each one of these weeks, I'm gonna start exploring, some more scenarios. So, uh, let's get right into it. And you're gonna start to see I have some picks and some teams I'm gonna officially lock in, where I'm really not going to change the selection from what I have right now. The Bears taking Caleb, it's a lock. It's a lock. I have no doubt in my mind they're going to take Caleb Williams. I've said it the whole time, I'll say it again. I think this was the wrong decision. I think they should have stayed with Justin Fields and traded this pick and got 3 first-round picks in return. But but I still think that this will be a good situation for the Bears, and it is what it is. I'm not going to continue to hate on the decision every single time. Next up, we got the Commanders. I'm not going to lock this in as Drake May. It could be Drake May or Jaden Daniels. It doesn't really matter to me. But I do have Drake May as the slightly better player. I think he is a player that is definitely worth a first round pick. He has a lot of factors working for him that I really like. I don't think Jaden Daniels has as many of those first overall pick qualities, but I do think he is still worthy of going in the top three. And this is going to be the first time I explore a trade down for the New England Patriots. And now I've stuck and pick at this selection every single time for the Patriots. And now you may be wondering, if they trade down, do they still take a quarterback? Who do they trade with? How far do they move? Let me answer all of these questions. They will be trading down with a team which has the capabilities of moving into the first round. Is it the Giants, the Raiders? Who is it? Who is it? It's going to be the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings made a trade with the Texans to acquire a second first round pick, and they're going to use that pick to trade up into the top three and get Jane Daniels. Will this be enough? Do I want to have any other picks involved in this? And we'll say a third rounder next year. And maybe they get like a fourth rounder this year. I don't care. The specifics don't really matter to me. We're going to force that trade. And yeah, we're going to force that trade, make it happen. And the Vikings are going to select Jaden Daniels. I think this move makes sense. I'm almost positive the Vikings are going to draft a quarterback in the first round. I do not think Sam Darnold is who they want moving forward, but I do think that they were caught by surprise with the Kirk Cousins departure. From what the head coach said at the combine, it seemed like he wanted Kirk back. And from the fact that they had to make a move to acquire a second first round pick after Kirk left makes me think that they weren't expecting him to leave. They thought that they were just going to be able to stick and pick and take the best player available at 11, but that was not the case. So I think they are keen to move up for a quarterback, and I think the preferred option would be to trade up for Jaden Daniels. All right, so that's the first trade so far. Now we got the Cardinals. I'm locking this in. I don't see the Cardinals moving down. Marvin Harrison is a generational prospect. He is going to be the first non-quarterback off the board, in my opinion, and he is worth every penny of taking him at the number 4 selection. So I'm going to officially lock that in for the Cardinals. Next up, we got the Chargers. I'm gonna say this. I do. Every mock draft I see now, somebody just you just have to have the Chargers trading down. You cannot have the Chargers just keep this pick and draft Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors. I don't get it. I really don't think the Chargers are going to trade down because the teams they trade down with, the Vikings, the Raiders, the Broncos, whoever you want, they risk losing out on Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers, which I just don't think they're going to do. And let me say this as well. There is no way. I'm going to officially put my foot down on this. There is no way a team is trading into the top five and possibly giving up multiple first round picks to take JJ McCarthy. I'm gonna just tell you right now. And the rebuttal to that, the retort to that is, oh, I guess you know more than these NFL GMs that are talking so highly about JJ McCarthy. You know who they were talking highly about last year? Will Levis. You know where they said Will Levis would go? They were saying Will Levis would go top two above Bryce Young, above CJ Stroud. Did it happen when it came time for the NFL GMs, which know so much more than the fans, to actually, draft Will Levis in the first round? Did he go in the first round? No, he did not. He fell to the second round, and all the hype he got was pointless. And I saw through that hype. I'm a boost myself up here. It was not hate on Will Levis. It was simply telling people that he was not worth a top 10, top 15 pick. I'm saying the same thing about JJ McCarthy. And just because all these GMs are talking so highly about him and all these teams are having long sit downs with him does not mean they think he's a top 10 caliber player. So I will not have JJ McCarthy going in the top 10 of a single mock draft from now into the draft. And I will certainly not have a team trading up to number 5 with the Chargers just to draft JJ McCarthy and a guy who can't even play year one because he's not even close to being fully developed. So that's what I'm going to say on that. I think the Chargers will stick and pick at number 5. The only question is, do they draft Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors? Well, let's see here. I think Malik Neighbors is certainly worth a top 5 pick because he is a very explosive receiver. He takes the top off of defense and he's electric with the ball in his hands. But I think Brock Bowers, the potential to pair him, a generational prospect, the best tight end prospect I've ever seen, the chance to pair him with Justin Herbert is greater than the prospect of drafting Malik Neighbors. So I'm going to go with Brock Bowers at 5 for the Chargers. The Giants at 6. I used to just go tackle for the Giants exclusively and not even think twice about it. But now it seems like the overwhelming majority of Giants fans aren't even thinking about tackle here. They're only really thinking about, is it Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors? So that's what I'm going to roll with. If the fans are so leaning in one direction, I'm not going to go against that. I'm going to give them Malik Neighbors. All the things I said 30 seconds ago still apply. He's a great prospect. He would probably be their number one receiver, but I think improving the offensive line still takes top priority for the Giants. But that's just my opinion. Next up, we got the Titans. I'm just going to lock this in. Joe Alt is probably going to be available at 7 every single time I do one of these, and I'm not going to pass on that if I'm the Titans. So locking that in. No time to think about that. Falcons at 8. Since they made the moves for Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney, I don't even have to consider them taking Rome Odunze here. I think taking the first cornerback off the board could be in play here, but I would like to see them trade down if they were looking to take a cornerback. So I think the best option available in that situation is drafting Dallas Turner. I think he's the best defensive player available. I think they need a number 1 edge rusher. Arnold Ebiketie is kind of coming into his own, but they need somebody to pair opposite of him, and I think Dallas Turner would be the perfect, fit there. Bears at 9. I've been giving them Odunze almost the entire time. I don't think there's another defensive lineman, maybe besides Leatu Latu, that's worth drafting in the top 10. And I think the Keenan Allen trade, while it's a great move, I think it is just a 1-year rental. I don't see the Bears re-signing Keenan Allen unless he just falls in love with Chicago and like he takes a massive pay cut to stay there moving forward. I think it's going to be a 1-year rental, and I think in order to combat that, you have to draft a guy like Rome Odunze, who is going to be there for Caleb a long time, right? So I think that still makes the most sense for the Bears at 9. And Jets at 10. I'm still not going to overthink this. I know they acquired Tyron Smith, but he's like 50 and he's injured 24/7. So I'm still going tackle here. I think Mekhi Becton is a free agent currently. They could resign him. I don't really care. I think they need a long-term uh, option at tackle. And Olu Fashanu is still a top 10 guy for me. So no brainer for the Jets. Patriots at 11. So this would be the Vikings pick that they traded down for. With this pick, do you draft a quarterback here, or do you wait, potentially lose your guy at quarterback, and draft the most explosive receiver on the board? They need both. There's no right answer to that. I'm going to go with the option of waiting for quarterback and taking the best receiver available, and that's Brian Thomas Jr. If this was not such a stacked receiver class, you could certainly talk about Brian Thomas going top 8, top 9, right? But because it is, I think we're going to have 4 receivers in this situation drafting the top 11. Brian Thomas is that good. He is that explosive. His body control is that perfect. His build is ridiculous. I didn't even know he was 6'4". The whole time I thought he was like 6', 6'1". And when his measurements come out, he's fucking a giant, right? So I don't know. He's a monster, and he is certainly the last of the top 4 receivers, I think, that could go in the top 20. The Broncos. I said this in the last video, and I'm going to stick with it. I think Sean Payton and the Broncos are very good at making bad decisions. And I think drafting J.J. McCarthy at number 12 would be a bad decision, which is why the Broncos are going to draft J.J. McCarthy at number 12 in this mock draft. Again, I really am not hating on J.J. McCarthy. I don't dislike him at all. I'm not a Michigan hater, nothing like that. I simply think it is a absolute replica of last season, where a guy who is not a first round talent is getting hyped to the moon post season, keep in mind, out of nowhere. So it's nothing about McCarthy. I'm attacking all the people who are claiming this guy is a top 5 pick and all that. And I don't know what the Broncos would even do here, because I don't think McCarthy's good enough to start in his first year. So if they throw him out there, he's going to get absolutely slaughtered, and probably hurt his development. So I don't know. I don't know what the Broncos are going to do, but that's what I have them doing in this mock draft. I think Sean Payton would draft him in that situation, but it is what it is. Raiders at 13. I'm going to have the Raiders here. They could certainly go quarterback. I understand that. But they did sign Gardner Minshew, and he's a massive upgrade over Jimmy G and Aiden O'Connell. And I think they could make the playoffs with Minshew. I think they could win 10 or 11 games with Gardner Minshew. I think their offense is that good around him, and their defense needs some holes that they have to fill. They lost a guy like Amik Robertson in free agency. I think their secondary needs help. I think they also lost Marcus Peters. So I'm going to give them Cooper DeJean. I've talked about DeJean at length. You should probably already know why. I think he's a top 15 player, and you know they could go a lot of options. I don't know who the first DB off the board is going to be, but I'm pretty sure it's between DeJean, Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell, and Nate Wiggins. In this scenario, I'm going to have the Raiders taking Cooper DeJean. Next up, we got the Saints. I'm pretty much going to lock this pick in as well. Maybe not the same guy every time, but I keep talking myself in to Talisi Fuaga going to the Saints. They addressed their edge rusher in free agency by getting Chase Young. I don't think there's a receiver outside of Brian Thomas that's worth taking in the top 15. So I think tackle is their biggest remaining need. They're not going to draft a quarterback. So, yeah, getting Fuaga. I love Fuaga as a prospect. He's been only getting higher and higher on the draft boards for me. And I think the Saints at 14 is a great fit for him. Next up, we got the Colts. I've been giving Colts cornerback almost exclusively. I really don't get why wide receiver is a need for the Colts. I'll get into that later. But let's go with the secondary here. Going to give them a cornerback to pair alongside, what was it, Julius Brents is who they drafted last season. So who is the most athletically gifted corner on the board right here? It's between Nate Wiggins and Quinyon Mitchell, probably. Nate Wiggins, did he get hurt at the combine? I think he did. Was it serious? I don't think it was serious. I hope it wasn't serious. I'm gonna give him Quinyon Mitchell. He has been a massive postseason riser that I actually agree with, because he showed out at the Senior Bowl, showed out at the combine, And that's how you really you truly rise your stock, not by having people saying you're a top five pick. Okay, my Seahawks at 16. This is something I'm going to lock in, which is the Seahawks trading down from this pick. I just don't like 16 as a Seahawks fan because, yes, there are a lot of amazing players available, but in our situation, I think we could certainly trade down and still get the guys we want. But the thing with the Seahawks need a second round pick so that they could draft a linebacker. Okay. We do not have a second round pick currently. And a team that has two second round picks is the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So we swap first round picks. We move down 6 spots. And let's say they give us what pick did they give us here? One second. I have it all on my phone right here. Let's say they give us the 50th pick. So you give up a second rounder to move up 6 spots. You know, I think it makes sense. There's a couple options. You're going to see a couple, like every time I do a mock draft from now on, I'm going to have a different team trading up with my Seahawks. So we're going to do the Eagles for now. What the hell? There we go. So I'm going to do the Eagles for now. And I'm going to explain why I think they could trade up in this situation. One second. They would trade up in this scenario to draft the cornerback of their choice. Let me tell you why. Darius Slay and Bradbury are getting up there in age. Bradbury almost completely fell off last season. And if you're the Eagles, I'm sure you'd be looking at Nate Wiggins and Terrion Arnold right here. And if you were to sit at number 22, you would probably look and say, damn, the Steelers could draft for one, the Rams could draft for one, the Jaguars could draft for one. You could potentially lose out on both these guys if you stick and pick at 22. So I think trading up in this scenario with cornerbacks essentially flying off the board right here at 15 and 13, I think it would make sense for the Eagles. Who would they want out of these two was the question. I have no clue. I think Terrion Arnold plays with a bigger chip on his shoulder. He's a bit nastier of a player. I just feel like the Eagles would like that more. So we're going to give them Terrion Arnold at pick 16. Next up, we got the Jaguars. I think, again, cornerbacks flying off the board here. The Jaguars made a very bad decision to cut um, Darius Williams. I don't get that move at all. He's had a great season last year, but they did make that move, and I'm going to have them replacing him in the draft in the first round by getting Nate Wiggins. I think that is their biggest need. I know offensive line could be addressed, but Nate Wiggins is the best corner remaining on the board. You're not going to get one of his caliber in the second round, so just make that move at 17. Next up, we got the Bengals at 18. They could do a lot of things. They could get a receiver since T. Higgins has demanded a trade. They could draft a tackle since protecting Joe Burrow is so important, or they could draft defensive tackle because they lost DJ Reader to the Lions, I believe. So out of those options, I'm going to go with defensive tackle in this scenario because Byron Murphy's sitting right there, and I've had them taking defensive tackle more than anything else the entire draft process. And while we're at it, let's just give the Rams a defensive tackle as well. They lost a guy you might have heard of, Aaron Donald, to retirement. So even though they have Kobe Young, I think, sitting right there in the wings, he had a great rookie season. Nothing wrong with adding a guy beside him and just continuing to run double defensive tackle formations and just trying to, replicate what you had last season with Aaron Donald and Kobe Young. So I think that makes sense. I will explore some other options for them in the future, but for now, we're going to have them taking Johnny Newton at 19. Next up, we got the Steelers. I recently realized that the Steelers fans really want Jackson Powers Johnson with their first round pick, and I'm gonna let that slide. I think it makes sense. You want to improve that offensive line. You want to get more nasty with Najee Harris up the middle, and you want to protect Russ certainly. Jackson Powers Johnson is sitting right there. Let's not second guess this. I like that selection. Um, let's see here. Dolphins at 21. This is going to be a tackle for me. I know their offensive line is getting up there in age, and they had lost a lot of players on defense, but I still think protecting Tua should be the number one priority. So with this pick at tackle, I'm going to go with the best on the board to a lot of people, J.C. Latham, to play right tackle immediately. Eventually, could transition to left tackle. Yeah, protecting Tua has got to be your number one priority, and I think Latham is great value at 21. My Seahawks now at 22. This has fallen into place perfectly. Look at these top four players on the board. Oh my goodness. All of these guys could be arguable steals at 22, right? Even going down too. I'd love Graham Barton and Tyler Newman and Peyton Wilson and guys like that. But with these top four, I think with my Seahawks have two real holes on this team right now, and that is a center and a right guard. Defensively, you can make an argument. We also got a few minor holes, but I think defensively we kind of have everything figured out. We just need one more or two more guys in the draft for depth. Offensive line needs to be addressed, and keeping Troy Fatanu at home in state to play right guard immediately and then transition to tackle when we either decide between Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross is the perfect decision for my Seahawks. I would love this pick, especially with the fact that we traded down and got an extra second rounder. Mwah, chef's kiss, beautiful at 22. Now, the Patriots at 23. This is where I'm going to have them take their quarterback. The question is who? I have said it before. I think Bo Nix is right there with Michael Penix. When I drop my quarterback grade video and grade all the top six guys, they might be the same grade, like right neck and neck with each other. I think both these guys are mid to late first round QBs, meaning I think they could both go anywhere from, 11 all the way down to like 40, right? That's their range, but I think they would, in my opinion, they're both top 20 caliber picks. But the Patriots, I feel like would go with Michael Penix. I think Penix just has more of an aura around him. It's hard to explain. Maybe it's bias. I'll admit that. But I think Penix in the pocket is the more traditional quarterback. I think he has the better arm without a doubt. And I feel like that would entice the Patriots more than a guy like Bo Nix, who is still a great player. Cowboys at 24. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to give them a Marius Mims. They lost Tyron Smith. Their offensive line is falling apart, and they have to start addressing that. Marius Mims gives them an immediate starter and could hopefully transition to left tackle. And next we get the Packers here. Who do I have the Packers taking? I'm going to give the Packers Graham Barton. They've done a lot of good things this free agency, replacing and upgrading at running back and safety, but I think they still have some holes in that offensive line. And why not take a guy in Graham Barton that could literally play anywhere? I think this guy can play all five positions in the NFL, which is insanity. It's amazing value to get a guy that can do that straight coming out of college. Um, Elton Jenkins 2.0, I guess. And yeah, that's just amazing value at 20. Whoever gets Graham Barton it's a great pick. It's from 20 all the way to down to like 30. Next up, we got the Buccaneers. Two biggest needs here, linebacker and corner. I know Kool-Aid is available. I like the prospect of taking Kool-Aid, but Jared Verse and Liatu Latu are sitting right there. There's no way I can pass on them. I'm going to give them Jared Verse at 26. I've given them Jared Verse more than anybody in this mock draft, like this cycle. So I might change that up in the future. But for now, we're going to give them Jared Verse. Next, we got the Cardinals. The Cardinals, man, in my mock drafts, for some reason, the Cardinals just win every single time. They got the best wide receiver, and they got the guy that's potentially, because he's falling, going to be the biggest steal at cornerback, and that's Kool-Aid McKinstry. He has taken a massive hit postseason. I think the majority, can't even talk. I think the reason he's falling so far is because of his injury, but I'm not sure if that's all of it, but he has fallen from like a top 12, 15 pick to all the way down. I think his average pick range, I just said, was like 30. So to get that guy at 27 is just amazing value. I can't even argue with it. Next up, we get the Bills at 28. The Bills here, I think the best player available is Leatu Latu. I think you take Leatu Latu. You lost Leonard Floyd to free agency. Von Miller is cooked. He's done for. So draft another edge rusher to replace those guys. And I mean, it's an amazing pick. This is an A type pick, A plus, to get Leatu Latu at 28. Lions at 29. It has to be cornerback. I kind of, you know, explored the option of them taking an interior offensive lineman, but with Cam Sutton going to prison, I think, well, potentially, nothing's confirmed yet, but with him out of there, They need a young option in there. The guys I'm looking at here are Kamari Lassiter and Ennis Rakestraw. I'm gonna give him Ennis Rakestraw. I think this is the range where, I don't really think Rakestraw or any of those guys are first round caliber, if you want to say that, but out of necessity, taking one of those guys at 29, I don't think it's that big of a reach. So it is what it is. Ravens at 30. This is one that I've kind of talked myself into the last couple mock drafts. I'm going to stick with it. Lad McConkey has that connection with head coach or with offensive coordinator Todd Monken. They're probably going to lose Odell to free agency, and they need more help at wide receiver. That offense was not good enough last season when it came to playoff time, and Lad McConkey certainly helps that. Niners at 31. I've been giving them Kingsley Suamataia the last couple mock drafts. I'm gonna give him Tyler Guyton. From what I heard, Tyler Guyton is a more raw prospect right now, but the upside is there. The potential is there, which I think the Niners would take a liking to. Next up, we get the Chiefs at 32. Yeah, it's just receiver every time, right? But it's not going to be Xavier Worthy. They signed Hollywood Brown. I do not think that stops them from taking receiver, by the way. It's like a 1 year deal, I think, though. So they certainly should still take receiver here. I've been giving them Xavier Worthy. They already got Rashee Rice. They got Hollywood Brown now as the shifty interior guys. Let me give them a big body, outside, deep threat, and that's A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell, certainly first round caliber. The Chiefs, it's a nasty fit. It's an amazing fit at 32. Now we got the Panthers at 33. And who would they take here? Certainly, you could make the case for Xavier Worthy. Let me see where I had Xavier Worthy going. Certainly, you can make the case for Xavier Worthy, but they got Deontay Johnson. They got Adam Thielen. I'm gonna give him Xavier Worthy. Fuck it. I had them taking somebody else at this pick, but I'm gonna revise this pick. I think Xavier Worthy. I don't think he makes it outside the top 35. So there we go. Great pick for the Panthers, by the way. Patriots at 34 here. I gave them the receiver. I gave them their quarterback. They lost Orlando Brown to free agency. I think that taking a tackle here has to be your top priority. I'm gonna give them Kingsley Suamataia. Seems like a Patriots pick. Take a guy most people haven't heard of very highly. So it worked out the other year. Where was it the guard out of Chattanooga? I forget his name, but Cole Strange I think was his name. So take Suamataia there at 34 and really revamp that offense with the top 3 picks. Cardinals here at 35. Who do I give them here? I think the interior of their offensive line is what needs the most work here. There are also a couple options on the defensive line that I think could improve the team drastically, but it's between right now for Zach Frazier and Jordan Morgan. I'm gonna give him Jordan Morgan. I think he probably starts right away as a guard, and then hopefully for the Cardinals transitions out to a tackle. I know they signed Jonah Williams, but I don't know if that's who you really want long term. So Jordan Morgan to the Cardinals. I like that selection. For the Commanders here, I'm just going to take the best DB available because that's what they really didn't address in free agency. They got a lot of help in their front 7, and they got some help at running back and offensive line. But here, I'm going to give them the best DB on the board, and that is Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota to play safety for them. They lost Cam Curl to the Rams, so that's an instant replacement right there. Next up, we got the Chargers. This is going to be a John Harbaugh, or is it John or Jim Harbaugh? I think it's Jim Harbaugh. This is going to be a Jim Harbaugh pick for me. The question is it Blake Corum or Mike Sanders still? They could use both. I might switch it up from mock draft to mock draft. I'm going to go Blake Corum right here, though. I don't think there's a way that in the second round he does not pick one of those two guys, right? So I'm going to go with Blake Corum. It's not a bad pick. You lost Austin Eckler to the Commanders, so you got to replace him in some way. Blake Corum as your new power back, your new mule cow. Wait, is it mule cow? That's not what it is. I don't know. Feed the rock to Blake Corum. How about that? Bell cow back is what I was thinking. Titans at 38. I know that they signed Calvin Ridley, so they could go receiver still. But I'm gonna have them moving this pick. I'm gonna have a team moving up to draft Bo Nix. The question is who? Well, I'm gonna go with the Giants. I have had them taking Bo Nix in the second round here for a while. I think that still applies. Give up a third round pick to move up 9 spots. Maybe get like a 4th or a 5th round pick in return. Who cares? Gonna force this trade. and have the Giants selecting Bo Nix with this selection. Great value there. I think they're going to move on from Daniel Jones. The question is who they take. So Bo Nix at 38 makes the most sense to me. Panthers at 39 here. I'm gonna have them doubling down. I think they made some moves that help Bryce Young through free agency, but you got to double down. You got to help him out in the draft as well. Give him Jatavian Sanders to pair up with Xavier Worthy. I really like the sound of that. That makes that offense. That sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah, that makes that offense way more explosive in Carolina, and I would really like to see that play out if that happened. Commanders at 40. I'm gonna give him cornerback. They lost Kendall Fuller. Uh, give him a young option there. I'm not gonna say Emmanuel Forbes is a bust yet, but you're bringing Dan Quinn. They run a lot of zone defense. CJ Tampa apparently is that type of guy in zone coverage, so seems like a match made in heaven. Next, we got the Packers here. I'm gonna go with safety. The question is who. I know they brought in Xavier McKinney, but you still have a hole at the other safety position. So I'm gonna give them, in my opinion, the best safety on the board, being Javon Bullard. Cam Kitchens would also be an interesting option as well. Next, we got the Texans. I'm gonna give them interior defensive line. I know they brought in, was it Follow Fatakasi, but they traded away. Who was it that they traded away to the 49ers? They traded away somebody, so they still have a hole in interior defensive line. Bring a young guy in there, an athletic freak, Braden Fiske from Florida State. Next up, we got the Falcons here. This has to be cornerback. I know you let Jeff Okuda walk for nothing, so you got to find a way to replace that. Keep Kamari Lassiter in state. I know Falcons fans would probably love that, and gives you an option at CB2 there. Raiders at 44. They need help at cornerback. I did not address that with their first pick. Wait, I did. Did I mess up here? I did. I double dipped with cornerback for the Raiders. I don't like that. So I'm going to change it up here. The question is who they take. Well, you know, they lost Josh Jacobs. I'm gonna give them a running back. I'm gonna give the Raiders a running back, linebacker too. I'm gonna give them a running back. Bucky Irving, I love as a prospect. Um, he's just so explosive. He can catch the ball as well as he can run it. When it's in his hands, he's electric. Um, I love Bucky Irving as a prospect, probably my favorite running back in the class. And at 44, you probably have your Josh Jacobs replacement there for the future. Next, we got the Saints at 45. This has to be receiver. They already addressed tackle. There are a lot of good options at receiver here. The question is, who do you want? You got Keon Coleman, you got Troy Franklin, Jalen Polk, Xavier Legette. I'm gonna say Keon Coleman doesn't fall out of the top 45. So that's what I'm gonna give the Saints right there. Next up, we got the Colts at 46. I'll be honest with the Colts here. I don't know why wide receiver is such a big need for them, but I don't really know what else to give them. I could give them interior defensive line, but you know, they have Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, and Michael Pittman. But if it says receivers in need, I'm gonna trust the Colts. Colts fans also want receiver. I'm gonna give him Troy Franklin at 46. Big body, deep threat, outside receiver, explosivity, opens up the offense. Makes sense at 46. Titans now with their traded down position. This is a great spot since he lost guys like Danico Autry to free agency to draft a twitched up designated pass rusher in Chop Robinson. Great value, by the way, at 47 there. So that would be a really good trade down for the Titans. Still get Chop Robinson and acquire an extra third round pick. That's a good move for the Titans right there. Jags at 48. I addressed cornerback with Nate Wiggins. So now you just stick and pick and take a great center in Zach Frazier. That's a great draft for the Jaguars, by the way. Zach Frazier, you address the offensive line and secondary. That's a good set of picks right there. Bengals at 49. I'm gonna give them a receiver. I'm gonna give them a receiver. The question is who? You got to replace T. Higgins. Are there some big body options? There is Xavier Legette. There is Devontae Walker. There is Ricky Pearsall. I'm gonna give him Jalen Polk though. I think Jalen Polk's the most explosive. His route running is crisp. He takes the top off the defense, and the Bengals, I think, would value that heavily. My Seahawks at 50, the pick we traded back with the Eagles for. Use this pick on a linebacker. You have your choice here. Do you want? Oh shit, that's over. Do you want Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State, or do you want Edgerrin Cooper out of A&M? From what I've heard, maybe I'm wrong about this. I would assume Peyton Wilson is better in drop back coverage because of his amazing speed. Than Edgerrin Cooper is better close to the line of scrimmage with his run stuffing ability. I would value Edgerrin Cooper more so than Peyton Wilson. I think he provides more in terms of rushing the quarterback, stuffing the run, and that's what the Seahawks need more right now, I think. So I would love Edgerrin Cooper at pick 50. Next up, we got the Steelers right here. And I'll tell you what, this could certainly be a cornerback with Mikey Sanders still, or it could be a receiver. And I'm going to give him a receiver here. I think trading Deontay Johnson means new times are approaching. And if you want to replace Deontay Johnson, the question is, do you go a big body outside receiver or a speedy inside receiver? So I'm basically talking between Roman Wilson and Xavier Legette. I'm going to give him Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. He has made some monster plays by using his frame and his big body. Next, we get the Rams. I've been giving him Peyton Wilson. I'm going to keep giving him Peyton Wilson. I think he definitely goes in the top 60, probably way higher than that, actually. You could maybe even sneak into the first round. But 52, it's good value for the Rams as they continue to address all layers of their defense. This is another pick I've kind of talked myself into. I really think the Eagles, even though they've signed multiple guys, they've signed like Devontae Parker, they've signed Paris Campbell, but they're still looking for that number 3 receiver, Jalen McMillan. It's just the perfect role. That's what he played in college so well in the slot. Amazing route runner, good hands. It's a match made in heaven for me. I want to see McMillan go to the Eagles. Browns at 54. This is one that I have not really, you know, what's it called? Devoted a whole lot of thought towards. It says defensive line or linebacker. I think they did lose the defensive lineman to somewhere, forget where, but it's between Chris Jenkins right here or Ruka Koriko. I'm gonna give him this guy. I'm not gonna try and butcher his last name for you. Next up, we got the Dolphins here. We went offensive line. Do I just go defensive line here? If Jatavion Sanders was here, I'd like to pair him up with Jonnu Smith, but he's not here. I'm gonna give him Chris Jenkins out of Michigan. You lost Christian Wilkins in free agency. Got to try and replace that. Chris Jenkins, Mozzie Smith, downgraded. So 55, it is what it is. Cowboys here at 56. I'm going to give them their running back. They lost Tony Pollard. They don't really have a lot of options now. Jonathan Brooks, the story, went to Texas, got hurt, major injury, but I would like to see him still go in the first 2 rounds. And where else to go besides Dallas, Texas? Buccaneers at 57. I could see a lot of things here. Certainly secondary. But they lost Devin White. Levante David's getting up there in age. I'm going to go with Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan. Have him sneak in into the top 2 rounds here. Packers at 58. I'm not really sure. I already gave them their 2 biggest needs, in my opinion. Do not think they need interior defensive line. They already have Devondre Wyatt and oh my God, I'm blanking on bro's name. Kenny Clark. So I'm going to give them an edge rusher, and that's Darius Robinson. You can never have too many edge rushers in the NFL. Darius Robinson, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, Devondre Wyatt. Very good young defensive line for the Packers. Texans at 59. This is a no-brainer. Give him Mikey Sanders still to play the nickel. You have Okuda and Derek Stingley outside, and all of a sudden, you got a pretty good young secondary in Houston. Next up, we got the Bills at 60 here. Does this have to be? No. I know I already gave them Laiatu Latu, so I don't want to double up with the Dissa Isaac. Damn, did this again. Let me see here. So it's not a If it's not edge rusher, it probably has to be receiver then, right? They lost Gabe Davis. Yeah, you lose Gabe Davis. You give him Malachi Corley, the Yak King, as he's known in college. Get the ball in his hands and watch magic happen. This is the first time I have him go in the first 2 rounds. I like that. I like that for the Bills. And then for the Lions right here, I think interior offensive line has to be the move. You got a short-term option in Kevin Zeitler, I think, from the Ravens on a 1-year deal. You want something long-term. Give him Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia. I know they already have I'm just blanking on these names. Is it Frank Glasnow? No, it's not. It's a Frank Ragnow. I know they already have Frank Ragnow, but I'm assuming one of those guys can move to guard, and it gives you a long-term option. Ravens here at 62. Stay in the DM. Well, it's not the DMV area. I'm just saying whatever at this point. Draft an edge rusher, a young twitched up pass rusher, and Adissa Isaac. I love the value at 62. It's great value for the Ravens. Next up, we got the Niners here. I'm gonna give the Niners a receiver. I'm gonna give him a receiver because Brandon Ayuk is talking like he wants to get traded. Deebo Samuel, I feel like he's been there for a while now. Give him a wide receiver 3, Roman Wilson. Done deal. And then the Chiefs at 64. I really don't know what to do with the Chiefs right here. Who is the best player available that I see? It's a lot of options. It's a lot of options. I'm gonna give him a running back. I'm gonna give him a running back to pair up with Isaiah Pacheco because he's already played like what 2 or 3 years. Do you guys really think they're gonna give Pacheco a long-term extension? Draft his eventual replacement in Jalen Wright. Amazing speed out of Tennessee. Man, that's going to be it for me. I tried to get this done a little faster than the last one. Let's go through it here. Made a few trades. We had the Vikings trading up to number 3, the Patriots trading down. We had my Seahawks trading down, the Eagles trading up. We had the Giants trading up to get their quarterback, Bo Nix. So we had a lot of moves here, a lot of moves, and that's going to be the trend here. That's going to be the theme moving forward. I'm embracing the idea of a lot of teams switching positions here. So I like it, man. Look, not to toot my own horn. I think this is my best mock draft so far. I need to get better. I need to get better from 50 to 64. That's what I'll admit. I need to do some more research there. But on that note, man, I want to say thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. We're going to be doing a lot more draft content as the draft comes around. So, yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.